Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. I'm your host, Alex Whiteley, and joining me today is one of my most favorite people that I've met on the show, and it will continue to be as well, is our High Sheriff of Shropshire, Dean Harris. Thank you so much for joining us again on the show, Dean.
I know, very pleased to be here, Alex. You've been championing me from the get-go, so it would only be right that I put in an appearance before I tootle off and hand over. So no, delighted to have a chat to you.
I think it's rightly so. I speak about you. Your ears must be burning quite a lot because it's all positive, by the way. I'm not like, oh, that Dean Harris, what's she been up to today? It's always been like, if you're a young female and you want to sort of look up to someone for inspiration on how women can become strong and powerful and independently brilliant, then Dean Harris is the person to look to, because that's what I see from you. And there are a few very strong, powerful women in sort of Shropshire that I've spoken to, and it's a privilege to work with people that you're very selfless in the way that you move around, but at the same time you're like, I'm not taking any crap, if that makes any sense, but in a polite, good way, And I like that. I think.
No, I would agree with you. I mean, I am. I think I do brand myself as authentic. I don't fit into any particular stereotype, and I also accept there can be a bit of a Marmite element as well. That there's a you either love me or you hate me. Hopefully not hate. That's quite a strong word, but hopefully
send them my way. I'll explain to you why they're wrong.
Yeah, but it's very much. I do believe in standing up and speaking out. I think it's important. I think it's important for people, whether you're a male or female or whatever. But I'm very much into right. Okay, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to say. Also, I'll take it if I'm wrong. I'm quite happy for people to come back to me. So I know I'm quite bossy. I know I'm quite forthright. But I'd like to think I do speak with a heart, and it's not just about making a load of noise. That I'd like to think I've got some sort of informed awareness when I'm speaking as well. But no, I'm all for championing the women's side of things, I have to say.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, not just women either. I mean, that is important. That's extremely important. But young people out there, I think,
definitely.
I have been during this last sort of 12 months, I got to say, I've spoken to so many young people that have just had these from a young age, like light bulb moments, poof. And instead of like sitting there festering on it and not doing it, they've got out there and done amazing things. Like, I've spoken to so many great people that have just gone out there and been such an inspiration. I mean, speaking to Luke Allen on our Reduced to Clear Biscuits new show that we're doing. That guy is 17 years old and he's got so much knowledge and wisdom about him. 17, and I'm blown away by him. It's crazy to see. It's nice to see that across the county.
I'm old enough to be most of these young people's no. I'm sad to say, but you do realise. I mean, the world is a different place without a shadow of a doubt. Forget COVID, if we can for a moment, but it is very much a different place anyway. In that it's so much smaller for kids these days or young people these days, and also I just love it when they see no boundaries. Don't tell somebody they can't do something. What right have we got to tell somebody they can't do something? So I've got my Outstanding Young Citizen Awards next week, which are something that every High Sheriff in Shropshire does every year. And they're in their 16th year, I think it is now. So we go out to all of the, specifically youngsters, whether it's colleges, schools, youth organisations, whatever, try and encourage people to put young people forward. And that can be for anything that they've done, community-based or what have you. And some of these youngsters, the range of stuff that's come back, the range of nominations, I was astounded. And what stood out for me as well was some of the people that just really do stand up and want to champion the rights of the underdog or are standing up for certain beliefs they've got and things like that. And I really do think it's important that their voice is recognised and listened to, because they have such an impact. We don't walk in their shoes. We don't understand how they see the world. So let's just listen and not be too arrogant and not listen to that. So no, it's just been that side of things. And when I've gone into schools and colleges this year, it's been quite an eye-opener for me. I don't tend to engage very often other than that with youngsters. I don't have any, and I thank the Lord every day. But I sometimes get in contact with youngsters through the work I do in courts and things, but very limited besides other than relatives. So it's been quite an eye-opener to me to engage again with youngsters this year.
Beautiful. That's a great sort of eye opener for you as well, isn't it? That you. Oh, actually, because I'm too late in the stage to be in a position where I could probably aspire to be in a position where I could run the country or be in a position to do that. So I think about like when I'm getting on a bit and saying 10, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, are we going to be okay? Leaving it to these guys. And I honestly, some of the young people I've spoken to, I'm quite confident in the fact that this generation's got it, man. They've this next generation are in a position way better than, especially the millennials. When you speak about millennials, all the stuff that we've had to live through, these kids are born into that. They haven't had a life of luxury and then suddenly gone, oh my god, there's been everything that's happened. So. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. When it comes to being the High Sheriff, we spoke at the very first, at the beginning of your term.
Yeah.
Is this role what you thought it was going to be? And is that a difficult question to ask during in a COVID era anyway?
No, not really. But we're quite fortunate in Shropshire. I think I can't remember if I mentioned it last time. So much has happened. There isn't really a blueprint in Shropshire. There isn't a blueprint per se across the country, but very much in Shropshire, it's you do your own thing. There's only certain criteria you have to do. Obviously, you've got to respect the office, which is important. But you've also got to support and encourage the fundamentals, which are the judiciary and the Crown are crucial to it. And then there is things like the emergency services, the voluntary sector, the different faith groups, anything to do with crime prevention, and our two local authorities. So those are the caveats that you've got. But around that, you can do very much as you please. So this has been 4 years I've known I was going to do this. So because I'm slightly obsessive, I've been doing a lot of planning over that time, a lot of finding out what who's who, what's what in the county, and so pulling it all together. So there wasn't, I knew which way I was going from the get-go, and then COVID happened, obviously. But I knew what I wanted to achieve in the year. I think that one of the biggest surprises was, twofold. I didn't realise quite how many people didn't know what the High Sheriff was, and that's probably 9 out of 10. Hopefully that's dropped to 6 out of 10 now since I've been in office. But also I forgot where I was going now. Sorry. So there was the fact that people didn't know what the High Sheriff was, but also the sorry, I've lost my train of thought, Alex.
It's absolutely fine. So there's certain things you've learned about the role. There's certain things you've adapted and added to it. What would you say you've added to this that no other High Sheriff has? Is there something that you've done that's been completely unique?
I suppose that a big deal has been the social media side of things, which I have been championing all along. That's a big deal. I mean, I've been extremely, extremely proactive is the other thing as well, which, again, this isn't speaking about previous High Sheriffs in Shropshire, this is in general. Some counties don't work like that. Some counties literally do have a formal diary that you pretty much do not quite do what you're told, but there's a lot of stuff that's already in the diary that you are expected to get involved with. I went out and found my own things and made contact and was very proactive. I had no choice given COVID. I had to do that. But I do think the social media side of things has been massively important. It's not really been done greatly in Shropshire before, believe it or not. It's quite radical in High Sheriff world. And I remember once going to a conference and being told, don't get involved in that social media thing. It's very dangerous, which is like a red rag for a bull for me. So I obviously chose to get involved because it's made such a massive difference. And I mean, I'd really be missing a trick if we'd have just gone to traditional media. Traditional media has been brilliant, but the reach has been unbelievable. And the fact that we've been able to, champion the causes that I've talked about, as you know, domestic abuse, child poverty, deprivation and addiction, but also all of the amazing organisations I've met, I've been able to spread the word about them. I've done constant shout outs when people have needed volunteers and things like that. So again, that's something that we put a lot of work and effort into, which hopefully now I will hand that over to the new incoming High Sheriff and hopefully they will keep that going, because we've got quite a bit of traction. I chose to post every day on Insta, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I stayed away from Twitter. I think I mentioned last time that I think I'd get myself into trouble, a bit like Donald Trump, if I got onto Twitter. And I know full well high sheriffs are not allowed to be political or antagonistic. So I knew what I was best at doing. So I think the biggest thing has been the social media, in fairness.
I think it's super important. It really is, because if you think about what your job is to promote the county, right? Is to show people, oh, look, Shropshire's great. Come and spend your money here.
Yeah.
That's what we want people to do when you can, of course. And social media is a free tool to do that. I mean, if you don't use social media these days, you got to be absolutely insane. But I think the only negatives is of course the negative comments, the trolls, things like that. Have you come across any of that? Even if you're doing, it seems to me that even if you're doing something positive, there's always that lunatic out there that's kind of like, swear word, you're this, and it's horrible. Have you seen much of that? Does it affect you if you have?
Fortunately, no. I mean, I've had some people approach me via social media about issues or complaints or angst that they've got with, not me specifically, but the system, the judiciary, things to do with family court, or stuff like that. So I've had one or two people approach me there, which I've taken offline, and we've dealt with it, and I've referred them on to people who can help them, which isn't me. But not I'd touch wood, and obviously I've still got 5 weeks left or whatever it is. So not I'd anything quite, and nothing rude or antagonistic directed at me or the office, which is quite good.
Oh, nice.
Good. And certainly, not when I've been out to towns and met people or anything. I have to say I've been, and that was where I was going when I lost my train before. The way people have received me and been receptive to the office has been really. I wasn't quite prepared for that. That everybody would be so lovely. I don't know why, but I just wasn't. No, it's that's fine.
And when it came to COVID, obviously, if we talk about the first sort of half of your term, did it take a while to take a run up at things, or did you straight from the beginning put down a plan in place, a schedule, and sort of stick to that throughout the whole term?
I did put a plan in place, because that's what I do for a living, is plan, and I like lists and I like rules, and I'm very good at all that sort of thing. I do like a to-do list. Bit of a control freak, I know that. I'm quite happy to tick that box myself. But I mean, it was obvious, because I came to office 2 weeks after the first lockdown started. I am the famous person who thought that the COVID thing would probably last a fortnight. I make no apology. I did genuinely think this isn't going to be long term. So it's been once or twice we've deferred things and delayed things, thinking, oh, next month, but then it became quite obvious that there wasn't going to be a next month. So I pretty much went from the get-go, right, this is going to have to go virtual. And I'd not done a lot of virtual stuff before, through work or anything else. So, I was the person stuck on mute with people shouting, Dean, you're on mute, quite a lot. But I went straight to virtual, didn't know how long it was going to last. Spent the first month or 6 weeks very much introducing myself, getting down the list of people I wanted to catch hold of, so they knew who I was, what I was going to be championing, but also being quite mindful to the fact of this was unknown, scary, and there were a lot of people, in a bad place with the whole thing, and so you didn't want somebody sort of bouncing along, shouting and bawling about, how exciting and wonderful this was. I was very respectful to the fact that some people were going through some seriously, bad stuff, and it was going to evolve and get worse. So I hope I was sympathetic and took that on board. So, but I was very much right. Okay, we need to get things done. People need to know I'm here. I want people to know that I can be, used in the nicest possible sense to help and support in any way I can. So that's what I sort of set to on the first 6 or 8 weeks. And I have to say it worked really, really well. And it's one of the things I've recommended going forward, that in various forums when we talk to incoming high sheriffs, keep this blended working thing going, keep the virtual stuff going, obviously get out and about when you can. But some forums don't need you to travel halfway across the county for an hour's meeting or whatever. yes, meeting people is different, but if you're just sitting in on a forum or a formal meeting, do the blended thing, because it's just so efficient and effective with time. And also, you've got no reason to say no to things then either. That there is no excuse these days. So
Yeah, I
that's
think that's the
really
hardest thing. I mean, like, I've been to a few networking things on Zoom and stuff, and I always meet someone that can be helpful towards me or the biscuit or what have you. The only reason we're a business now is because I met Chris from CGR that helped us out and became a business, and as well your husband as well. We met up, and there's so many influential people that I met that was kind of like, you've got something here, man. You can do something with a biscuit, and it's So
yeah.
that's
Networking's been a massive part of this role as well. That I do some networking through my day job, but that's been integral to this, and really that I was prepared for that, but the volume of networking has surprised me, and the amount of facilitating and putting people together has just been fantastic. So that I do know personally I have made a difference from that point of view. And that's something that I would encourage all future high sheriffs just to be very proactive. You don't assume people know what's going on in the county, because a lot of the time they don't. But also don't assume that just because you've got, Joe Bloggs in Market Drayton with one offering, and the same individual down in Ludlow, they don't know each other exist, but together they can do something. And so, I've been massive fan of the e-introductions, which I've just been, I must do at least 3 or 4 e-introductions virtually every day to people, putting them together and things like that, which again, as I say, I did in my day job and I've always done. But if you just know that people can put them together and let them run with it, it is just fantastic.
That's the image, the goal I sort of have for the virtual market showcase, was to bring one business owner and another business over and talk to them, and maybe they never met before and they can connect in certain ways. I think the first one we have the guy from Bake, and we had Amy from Madame Lama's Flower Bar, and I was like, well, you could make brownies from Bake Shrewsbury and mixed with the flowers and send it. You know what I mean? Like, there's silly little things like that could work. Could so it.
But it's true, because people sometimes just need somebody else to bounce with. If you are a business owner, and particularly if you're an owner manager, sometimes you've got nobody. You are it, or you may have staff, but they're looking to you for leadership and guidance. Whereas, if you've got a fellow business owner, no, you're not in competition. You're just on the same page. You understand the same problems. Sometimes it's really helpful just to bounce with somebody, or they might have, people. The amount of collaboration going on, and you're a big fan of collaboration across the county. It is the way forward, because you can achieve so much by, not being too precious. We all like to have best practice, and we like our ideas to be our ideas. But if you can collaborate and share, it can just make such a difference. It really can.
When I was younger, I went through one of these phases where I was going to make my own comic book. Right, it's crazy. I drew it all out and everything, and I was like, "Well, how do I make money on this?" I was about 11, I think, and I spoke to my teacher in school, and he's like, "Well, you give it away for free first," and I could never understood that. Never understood, why do you give it away for free? And it's, of course, that's your network. That's how you build your audience.
That's what it is. Brat to catch a mackerel, isn't it? That's what it is. So
exactly. All right. So we've talked about your introduction to sort of being High Sheriff and what you kind of expected. Let's talk about the goals that you'd set out for yourself at the beginning. You were doing a lot with domestic abuse, mental health, and was it? That was it, wasn't it? It was domestic abuse?
Domestic abuse, addiction, and child poverty and deprivation.
That's it. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
That's right.
Did you manage to do what you wanted to do with that?
Yes, because what I fundamentally wanted to do was raise the profile of the 3 issues in the county and challenge people's sometimes lack of knowledge, or even maybe some stereotypical views or misconceptions about the 3 areas. So I've been doing a lot of work around that, sat in on a lot of forums, kept the message going on social media and in the general media. So we've done a lot of work on that. That's worked well. And we've also managed to we've got some funding so that we could train a teacher in every school in Telford and Wrekin in their Expect Respect programme, which teaches young people about domestic abuse from the age of 4, appropriately, obviously, up to 18. So that was good. We also did some information forums for employers, working with the Chamber of Commerce, so that employers could sign up and find out, okay, what are the realities of domestic abuse? How are they, and are they affecting my staff? Because, nobody escapes this, I'm afraid. So that worked really well. I think we had probably about 300 people involved in that, so that they got to learn about policies, what should they do if they suspect domestic abuse, but also what should they do if they suspect one of their employees is a perpetrator. So that worked really well. With the addiction side of things, again, it was breaking down stereotypical views, finding out the realities of what is going on in the county. And then that side of things sort of spins off into, you get the child criminal exploitation, county lines, people know about that. Then you get the wider CSE and things. So that's spun out. And again, that's been information raising and awareness raising. And I have managed to get out to all of the service providers across the county, except for TACT in Telford. We are desperately trying to get together before I finish to meet some of the service users. And I've spoken to a lot and found out the realities of being an addict and what it means. And fundamentally, they're just like you or I. They're no different. Some of them got jobs, they've got families, they've got kids, they've got mums, dads, brothers, sisters. And so it's interesting talking to people about the triggers, the whys, the hows, the wheres, and there's an element of there, but for the grace of God is what I think we all need to remember. So that's been fascinating. It's also been interesting to try and help get some funding for some of these organisations, because they are, quite a few of them are very small, doing amazing work, and often, particularly in Telford and Wrekin, operated on a sort of peers. So it's, recovering addicts themselves are running the organisations, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
And then obviously We Are With You in Shropshire, working with youngsters and adults as well. So achieved quite a lot there. Then we went into the poverty and deprivation side of things, and I appreciate it was labelled as child poverty and deprivation. And let's be honest, it's not child. It's children are not in poverty on their own. It's normally a family or what have you is in poverty. So I understand that, and I knew that was going to be the hardest nut to crack, as it were, or certainly the hardest area to have any impact, because it's a complex area. It needs, potentially looking at government change and policy change and things like that. So all I could really do is, again, raise awareness and make people understand the levels of deprivation that we've got in the county, which a lot of people have been stunned at when you talk about the numbers, and they're quite surprised at the number of people where there is poverty in the county, because, it is beautiful, it is lovely, but we have got some of the most deprived areas in the top 10% nationally in Shropshire. So that's been an eye-opener for people. And we talked about the specifics of what poverty means as well. And you can see people's jaw drop when you start talking about the haves and have-nots. So that's been good. And we managed to set up as well a welfare fund at the end of last year with the help of ACO, who I think you might remember from last time. ACO over in Oswestry have been very kind and partnered with me for I was their CSR element for the year. So they worked with me on the organisations I wanted to support and the initiatives. But through some funding that they were able to provide, we were able to give 40 of the most deprived schools in Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin a welfare fund each, so that they could fund kids. And there were no criteria. We left it to the schools to decide who needed what. The only thing we asked was it didn't go on electronics. And it was very much about, shoes, coats, clothes, books, pencils, bags, whatever those children needed. So that was really well received. And we hadn't really planned on doing that. That was just a bit of a light bulb moment at the tail end of last year. So that was really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult. I mean, yeah, it's been terrible for a lot of people, especially when we're talking about sort of domestic abuse, mental health, poverty. Yeah. Because some people have lost their jobs, their businesses, and it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to sort of pull themselves up from that, even after COVID is gone. So hopefully, I mean, it sounds to me what you've done is you've set a foundation for moving forward. which is nice.
Well, I think the worrying thing is, you know, I know, and I don't want to be doom and gloom. It's not about that today, but I mean, there's good news, obviously, with the vaccine and stuff like that going on, which is fantastic. But we do have to remember that, you know, that there is the we're in a weird time at the moment. We've got the furlough side of things, which is fantastic. It's been extended, but you know, this isn't going to. Once we come out of this in June, whenever it is. Please God, it's not all going to go back and be tickety boo. There's still going to be the repercussions, because some businesses are in a fake survival mode at the moment because they've got furlough. Once furlough goes and the realities hit, that's a worry. You're going to get increased unemployment. Admittedly, I am pleased that the children are going back to school, because unfortunately schools are used
safe
is the wrong
haven.
word, but they pick up the social issues that we've got, and they are key to trying to address some of those issues. And if nothing else out of COVID, I suppose the three areas I highlighted are now being talked about a lot more. People are more aware of them, and now what we need is, you know, on a national level, we need that talk to turn into action, really, so that we can, well, eradicate, if we can, well, at least make inroads into eradicating you know, the suffering that's going on in those three areas.
Is there something that you wanted to work on, that you went to work on, that that set you into emotional overdrive, that was just too much for you to stomach?
No, I wouldn't say no. Not. I mean, I'm quite a tough cookie. I don't get shocked easily. I get frustrated extremely easily. But I think that's because I'm a woman of a certain age as well, and I'm short, and I'm Welsh, so I've got those three things. I know I can get savage about things, but not from a emotional point of view. No, I mean, some of the frustrations, some of the things I wanted to get done. I wanted to get into schools. Because I wanted to start to talk to kids about aspirations. Obviously, I wouldn't use the word aspiration, but we talk about hopes and dreams, and you know, what do you want? Because I think that's crucial. That just because of where you're born and your family, if you can just see some way out of that, and you can change things, and somebody gives you permission, that you don't have to stay like this. I just think it is crucial, and I think we've got such a lot of work to do with self-esteem and raising aspirations in schools. So that's been unfortunate that I haven't managed to get in there. Again, that's something I could carry on working on after I finish in office, potentially. I wanted to get my charity ball off the ground. I couldn't do that because that obviously was cancelled. But again, through the everybody who sponsored and supported was so kind that they allowed me to keep the money, not me obviously, but so that we could again do the welfare fund and make donations to various other things.
Amazing. The frustrations are obviously, I think they're key to sort of moving on. Maybe you can pass them frustrations on to the next person. This is what I couldn't do. Maybe you could. I mean, I suppose every high sheriff that comes in has their own goals and sets their own path. But like you were saying, after you finish your role, maybe you can carry on with that. Is there a bit of that? Kind of, I haven't had enough time. I want to carry on doing this, or you know, is there a kind of a relief of I haven't got so much to do no more? You know.
No, I have to say I'm extremely sad. I can't deny. I am really, really sad that it's coming to an end. For all sorts of reasons. Partly because obviously I can see that, you know, COVID and we'll be coming out of this eventually. So you know, that there are some of the things I wanted to do I could now do. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's been, you know, it's not about what I've got from it, but I can't deny, you know, it's been so rewarding to be able to put people together. But you are right. We're not allowed to tie the hands of the incoming High Sheriff, and I wouldn't dream of doing that either, because we are all very different, and we all come to it with different skill sets, different things we want to achieve. We've got a different take on the world as well. So, you know, which is important. We just don't want to churn out the same old all the time. So there are certain things I will continue to do. You know, I will continue to champion about I'd like to continue doing work and being like an ambassador to do with domestic abuse. It's something that is just it really hits home with me. Addiction, again, all of the organisations, I will continue, and they will all receive an email from me at the end of my term with my personal contact details, because if there's anywhere I can help, support, but again, keep connecting people, I don't see that will ever change. Yeah. And there's one or two projects I would like to continue working on afterwards, and have been asked to. I've not committed to anything yet. I'm not teasing them, but I just want to make sure that I can give the time and energy to be able to make a difference. I don't want to just be a name at the bottom of a letterhead. And also, I've had to be quite conscious and make people aware. I will lose the coat of arms from the bottom of my email footer soon, and you need to remember that you would be having Dean Harris, so that's the key thing as well. But no, I mean, there's still a lot I'd like to continue doing, and has opened my eyes to what I'm being surprised at is the amount of amazing work and vital work that goes on in the county, which is delivered through the third sector. Now, I'd never had anything to do with the third sector, so our charity, voluntary, community sector before. I was very much a private sector girl, knew about the public sector and what have you, but this wasn't something that touched my world. I am stunned, and a lot of people would be, if you realised if we didn't have the third sector, God help what would happen in the county, because they really do contribute to the fabric of our society. And I think there's a lot of work that can be done there to support and encourage and get the business sectors working with the third sector in a better way.
Yeah, I think that's. I've heard that a few times mentioned in forums and conversations, that we shouldn't have to rely on charity as much as we do. But they, like you said, they are the backbone of what, especially when it comes to mental health, addiction, sort of medical needs, disabilities, all dog aid, things like this. The movement centre, share. There's so many amazing things in Shropshire that just offer such an amazing service, and if it wasn't for them, then the government or the NHS may be overwhelmed.
Definitely. I mean, and these are people who have just got a downright passion for what they're doing, and an expertise and knowledge that goes hand in glove. But yeah, I think there's so much. If we would be able to achieve so much more, and this is something I'm going to be working on, is trying to see how we can get the two sectors working better together, so that we can do some maybe skill swapping, a bit. Let's look at corporate social responsibility in its broader sense, so that little SMEs or owner managers, one-man bands think about, what can I do to help? How can I help? And again, a lot of the charity and voluntary sector organisations, they've got things to offer as well. I mean, you mentioned mental health. Some of these organisations could come into employers and talk to them about mental health. Ways of coping and adapting and things like that. So I think there's a whole piece of work that we can continue. I mean, we've started some work on it. There's a whole piece that needs to continue on around that across. And when I'm talking the county, I'm talking the geographical county.
I think that's really important, actually, because there's a lot of. I've worked for a number of companies where they've gone, if you need help with mental health, there's a number. Here's a number. Right. Crack on. Yeah. But how great would it be if you got to actually meet the people involved with that? Actually, they're not too bad. Because I've been offered that number before. I've been very honest about my issues with mental health in the past, and I've never rang those numbers, never, because I don't want to speak to that person. I don't know them. No,
it's the what is it, EAP, isn't it? Employee Assistance Programs. And don't get me wrong, I think they are wonderful, and there is a place for them. But there is still a massive amount of stigma, rightly, well, it's wrongly, around mental health. A lot of people sometimes don't even recognise that what they're going through is classed as mental health. And there's all that side of it as well. I think we are far better at talking about it now. And I'm fortunate; I've never had mental health issues personally, and I was probably guilty of being one of those dismissive people several years ago. But until you've had it in your family and you start to recognise, and you're talking to somebody who had never had issues before, and they start to talk to you about the realities of some of that, it absolutely wakes you up. And please God, people don't have to go through it themselves for them to understand it. So if we can do a bit more educating around that as well. And whilst I said I was going to stick to my 3 causes in my year, you can't help but go off into other areas because they're linked. Like we're talking mental health, like you talk homelessness, things like that. They're sort of peripheral problems that all intertwine with each other when you've got the social problems that we've got in the county, really.
How have you been with dealing with sort of? I suppose it doesn't come under your jurisdiction when it comes to things like, I don't know, the controversial things like the Relief Road and all these sort of things that people. There's so much conflict. And you're in a position at the moment where you've got to be like impartial. You've got to kind of like, well, you're maybe right, you maybe right. How have you dealt with situations like that where you've got to be impartial?
Well, you are right. It doesn't come under my jurisdiction, which is a good thing. And I also, I'm not. It's not a political position. So,
yeah.
I mean, the two local authorities have been very supportive to me because of the areas I was looking at. I've spent a lot of time talking to them about what their provision is, what's happening, and this, that, and the other. And they've been very open and accommodating. And I think, my policy on everything personally and in the role has been very much transparency. If people ask you a question, just answer the question honestly. Or if you can't answer the question honestly, tell them, I can't tell you. That's all people want. So, that's a big mantra for me in general. But yeah, I mean, I've not got myself caught up in things to do with local government, to do with policy and things like that, because I can't add anything to it. I'm no authority on it. And sometimes we don't know the whole story. And I mean, you talked before about social media. You get the people who like to rant on social media, and sometimes it's easy, isn't it? They're faceless. I think sometimes if we stopped and just knew all of the facts and took an objective view, and this is the magistrate in me coming out now. You stop, you measure the facts, you look at what's going on, and then you make a reasoned decision. And I think maybe we lack that sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of you got to learn sometimes when it comes to compassion and understanding. I got taught sometimes it's not a bad idea to understand that everyone has the possibility to be a bit of an idiot. And you can't just like, okay, you said this stupid thing. That's it. He's gone from my life forever. I'm not speaking. Sometimes you can be like, no, he's wrong, but bless him, or this. you can't just judge someone on a comment. I mean, eventually, if so many are made, they might be like, oh, Alex has said this about 8 times on the Shrewsbury Biscuit. I'm not listening anymore. I kind of expect it if you keep doing it. But
no, it's true. I mean, it's true. I was taught many years ago, and it was when I first went into the court system. Good people do bad things, and bad people do good things, and really, you just need to stop, judge. But equally, we're all responsible for ourselves, aren't we? So I think that's the other thing as well. But no, as for ranting about developments in the county and things like that, no, because there is some fantastic things, and I did sit in on to do with the various town plans but for both local authorities and the various things that the bids are doing. I mean, it is amazing and so innovative, and the thoughts and ideas and the visuals are just amazing for what could happen across the county over the next sort of 10, 20 years. And if they come off, it'll just be it is an exceptional place to live as far as I'm concerned. But yes, some of these thoughts and ideas are just fantastic.
With the big town.
Sorry, Alex.
I was just going to say, with the big palm, I haven't touched any of that yet because sounds daft, but I didn't think we were worthy as a show. I didn't think this is a massive ordeal, to get involved with that. So maybe we should.
Honestly, I obviously I've looked into to what they're planning in Telford and what they're planning in Shrewsbury and things, and it's impressive. And at the moment, obviously the ideas are out there, and it's purposely for feedback. That's what they want. These are very much aspirational hopes and dreams. So people have the say to come back and say, well, why wouldn't it work? Or no, we don't want that, or we like that. So I think it's quite important when you are given an opportunity to speak up you don't have to give me an opportunity. I'll speak up anyway. But I do think, don't moan about it after the event. If you've got something to say or you've got an idea, I just think it's a brilliant way to do it. I mean, I'm all for, allowing people to have their say. I think it's vital, and we should do more of it. I think you should do a lot of the getting people involved and letting them have their say on all sorts of ideas and thoughts, because people sometimes work in silos and they don't see things from the end user's perspective, and I think that's quite important, no matter who you are.
Yeah, that's really important. I think one of the most important things with a role like this is like life is a highway, right? Let me to quote a song. What have you learned about you? What is the lessons that you've taken away from this role this year?
Um, okay, what have I learned about me? I've learned very much. I didn't like public speaking when I came into this office. It's one of my, even though I can sit in court and I've got plenty to say, put me on a stage and I don't really like being the centre of attention. Complete contradiction, I know, but that's just how it is. So I did take myself in hand and went off and had some public speaking lessons. And really, I must confess, it's all now very much down to practice, and more practice. And
Amen,
I'm now actually quite comfortable doing public speaking. I hope I'm okay at it. I've done a lot of it, and nobody's switched me off or done a Jackie Weaver on me and deleted me off the off the screen. So yeah, I think my public speaking, that's worked really well. I also I think very much the whole feel the fear and do it anyway, that you are going into forums you never thought you would go in, never expected to meet certain people. And I think, yeah, there's an element of, look, what's the worst that can happen here? So I think that's quite significant. I always knew I was proactive and tenacious, so that was already there. I didn't need to worry about that. What else have I learned about me? I learned that I'm not ever going to go onto an electronic diary. I'm going to stay with my old-fashioned Filofax. Definitely. What else have I learned? I suppose I have learned about the whole networking thing. It's just something I've maybe undervalued before.
Yeah.
And I've now realised actually just always go out of your way to do this. So yeah, that's been pretty useful as well. And also I've learned a lot personally about how local government operates, how the third sector operates. So that side of things, as I've learned about that as well, which has been pretty good.
Amazing. And there's a lot of that we got in common this year, actually. And we've moved into a live sector. We're doing the shows. I've learned how to do that as well. The public speaking thing's never been easy for me. With the live feed, as soon as I see that red dot in the corner, I kind of clam up a bit. Yeah. But networking is very, very important. We're running out of time, obviously. But if you could give the next High Sheriff of Shropshire a couple of bits of advice, what would you say to them? Especially as you are a pioneer in the fact that this is the COVID era, and they're going to get a slice of that. What would you say to them?
You are very kind, Alex. Well, I think we've made a joke before that we've said, as you know, the office is 1,100 years old, and previous High Sheriffs have been through things like the Black Death, the Great Plague, the Norman Conquest, and various world wars, and really they've always had to adapt. And I'll just always be known as the COVID sheriff, but which is fine. But I think my successor, who's Tony Morris-Dighton, takes office on the 9th of April. And obviously we're very different people, and Tony's focus will be different. And I wouldn't really purport to be able to tell him too much what to do. But one of the things that we did do as a West Midlands region was we put together some handy hints and tips for incoming High Sheriffs, just so that there was maybe more continuity. So we've already done some work on that, and that's gone forward. And I think that will help people, so that it sort of shortcuts them to who are the movers and shakers, who are the key people they need to talk to, and that sort of thing. So that's already done. As regards what else I would suggest, let me just think. The blended working that I mentioned, keep that going. Make sure that you do some, as much live as you can and get out and about, but don't just switch your Zoom off and never switch it on again. And also importantly, I was quite fortunate after we'd had the initial period of lockdown and we were allowed out. I really got hold of it, and I went on a virtually 16-day tour of all across the county to all four corners. It was important that I was out and about. I was not just going to become a Shrewsbury or Telford centric sheriff. I wanted to be everywhere. And also, there were a lot of people that needed to have some positive stuff going on. So we talked about the positives. I got to thank people for the wonderful work they've been doing. But I also got to feel what is the difference in certain parts of the county. What they've got different perspectives on things. What are their needs and what are their issues. So that's important. That I think a sheriff really needs to get out and about and remember it's the whole county. And also you are here to serve what the people want, and that's crucial. It's about thanking, encouraging, as far and wide as you possibly can. So, I know you'll be in safe hands though after I'm gone. Let me just say that.
I'm sure. We'll have to get him on the show. I'd love to meet him. Yeah. I'm going to do my Springer's final thoughts about this now, because I've got to say, like, I have championed you a lot. I've talked about there's a few people this year. This year has been one of the best years for the Biscuit in looking for inspirational characters. And you have been up there at the tippity top, right? Because every time I speak to you, you do inspire me. Every time I see a picture of you in the newspaper, on the Shropshire Star, on Facebook, or in my Shrewsbury, I'm always like, there she is doing her thing. Right? I'm so happy every time I see you, because you're going out there and you're spreading that inspiration across the whole county. And you're right, it is the whole county. And I've got to say, you may be losing that coat of arms at the bottom of your email, but I feel like you've gained another, and that's your name. Dean Harris, that is your coat of arms, because what you've done is you've shown people that there are people out there that care and that can encourage people to go out there and do amazing things, because that's what you've done. That's what you've done this year. You've taken a terrible ordeal like COVID and you've gone, let's look for opportunity in that. And you did. Yeah. So on behalf of the whole county, I'd like to say thank you. Absolutely thank you for what you've done.
No, you are very welcome. I knew I was only going to get one shot at this, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it well. So I'm pleased that, hopefully I've helped make some positive difference in the county, which was all I could really promise to do.
And I absolutely hope that you're not going to ride off into the sunset. No High Sheriff, but I'd like to keep in touch. And if there's any way we can get you on the show and talk about anything you do want to carry on from, whatever you're doing in life, just come back on the show and keep talking, because that's what I like.
Definitely. One of the things I will be back to talk to you about, Alex, is the Shropshire's Outstanding Community Project, which is one of the projects taking forward. We're going to be rolling it out this month, and that's about recognising. It'll be an annual award that we've started now, and it'll be every future High Sheriff will take it on as well. And it's to go into communities. It's for each community to recognise them as outstanding. So it's not about how beautiful they are to look at. It's about their community spirit and the good stuff that they've got going on. And there'll be an annual, annual award going on. So when that's launched later this month, either myself or some of the other team involved will definitely want to come back and talk to you about that.
Well, we're all ears. All ears.
Got a booking.
Well, look, we are running out of time. Obviously, we're about there. We're about at the end. But thank you so much for coming on. It's always great to talk to you. Honestly, it really is.
You're a joy, and keep doing what you're doing as well. You are making such a difference, and the range and of people that you're getting on board, and talking about poignant issues, some of the fun stuff as well. No, there's plenty. So I shall keep sending people your way, I promise.
Yeah, please do, because you've sent me some brilliant people. You really have. Where can people keep in touch with you after, if you want people to keep in touch with you, social media and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. The social media accounts will transfer to the new High Sheriff, so it won't be me. The pictures will turn into Tony as of a few weeks' time. But I'm obviously on social media myself, on Facebook and Instagram. But my email address, my business email address is Dean, DEAN, @thebusinesscompany.biz, BIZ. So you can always get hold of me there. I'm available. And my mobile number hasn't changed. That would be the same as it is on the current High Sheriff account as well. Amazing.
Thank you so much for that. I also want to say a huge thank you before we get out of here to we've got a new Biscuit media team that we've just put together. So to James Warman and to Phil Morris. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining the team Biscuit. They're our new photographers. We're going to go out and we're going to be everywhere. So I wanted like an anchorman, team channel news 6 Channel 6 News team, sort of pose. So thank you very much for joining the team for them, guys. Before we get out of here, also, I want to tell you about my website, which is www.theshrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk. Made for us by our friends at Web Orchard. If you need a website, make sure you check them out. And make sure you pay attention to what's going on social media, because we are bringing out so much stuff. Team Biscuit, I'm working them. I am working. I'm making sure they know that there's so much coming on at the moment, because I've got inspiration. I've got aspirations. I want to take the biscuit to high places. So that means work. So we got loads to show you soon. Dean, thank you very much again for joining us on the show. You're always welcome on, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.
All the best, Alex. Thank you very much.